three members of the cast of Euphoria have been canceled on social media. Barbie Ferreira got canceled because she said the N word on her old Tumblr account. Sweeney a couple of days ago was canceled because she went to her mom's birthday party and there were some pictures from the party. One of them she posted showed, I think it might be her dad, but it's definitely someone in her family wearing a Blue Lives Matter shirt. And I think some other pictures came out where some of her family members were wearing MAGA hats. And in fact, they found out that her brother is following Donald Trump on Instagram. And then the next one, which this one will probably be the most controversial one, Hunter Schafer, a very famously trans actress, liked the post and went in support of a post that was criticizing non-binary people. You guys already know my perspective on cancel culture and all that. I'm a very left-leaning person. I will say that. I don't like getting political on this channel, nor do I ever want to. But one thing I do stand up for is everyone's right to speak. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes. And by the way, these are three different things that we're talking about. So it is kind of weird that I'm making this into one video. But Barbie's, like, I'm gonna be defending each and every one of them in a bit. I already made a video on Sweeney, but I'll talk a little more about that right in this video. So this is going to be kind of a long video. This is going to be more of a touchy subject video. So I do want you guys to indulge with me. Stay tuned for the entire video. Please allow me to give my perspective. And then you guys are more than welcome to let me know in the comment sections. What did you think? Whether you agree, disagree, whatever it is, you're more than welcome. So, first of all, I'll say this. I'm not really the biggest Euphoria fan. I think it's a bit overrated, but I think the first season's solid. It's a good show. I'll definitely say it's one of the better high school shows. I think a lot of high school dramas tend to overdo the whole teenage part. By the way, to give you a bit of a rundown, 3 years ago I was in high school, so I can still understand what high school culture is like nowadays. So I would say a lot of things I saw in Euphoria are pretty accurate. I've seen a lot of things, which is sad, but a lot of young people are going through bad things, bad stuff, and I could say Euphoria is a bit accurate on that topic. There's a couple of things where I'm like, all right, they're going a little too far, but you know what? It's a show about flawed people making flawed mistakes, and the thing that I like most is that it does show you drug usage. How when Rue's character Zendaya, when she uses drugs, she feels good, but when she doesn't use it, she feels bad. But yet, when she uses it, she affects all those around her. She is slowly dying, and you could tell it negatively impacts her life, even though it makes her feel good. And I feel like that's a nice little message where it shows you. I mean, yeah, look, you're gonna like drugs, but the journey is to not be in that mentality. I don't. There's a lot of things, and then there's a lot of specific character things. But let's first talk about Sweeney's thing. So let's actually get this image. So I could not find the second one, but on this picture right here, this is actually one Sydney posted. So it was her mom's birthday, and right here, what I assume is her dad or grandpa. Or I'm assuming is more than likely her dad at a Blue Lives Matter shirt. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether you should agree or disagree with this, but I'm going to tell you this right now. You should never, ever, ever, because this is what I saw. I saw a lot of people telling Sydney that she should disassociate from her family, that she should call out her family, that she should basically stay away from them. When in reality, you're asking too much from a person when you do that. Nobody's going to back away from their family just because a couple of people on social media told them to. I'll say this, it's inhumane. It's inhumane to tell somebody they can't be a part of their family. I know some of you are going to say, oh, but being a Trump supporter, being Blue Lives Matter, being all this and that is immoral and that it's horrible. And I can understand your perspectives. But you also can say that most, and by the way, I'll say this, I hate Trump. I hate Donald Trump. But part of the reason why, Trump and, the right is growing right now. And by the way, if you're a right-leaning person, that's cool. You're more than welcome to have your opinions. I disagree with them. But at the end of the day, I want you guys to be able to speak out your opinions, because I think ultimately the best way to change or to challenge things is to have conversations with people you disagree with. I think silencing and canceling people does nothing. It does nothing. You're taking away somebody's right. And yes, sure, the social media, Twitter, Instagram, yes, they're private platforms, but at the end of the day, there's been a lot of porn uploaded to Twitter. I've literally seen a decapitated head on Twitter, and I feel like it's stupid that that's not removed, but yet people will put out a political opinion and then somehow that's not removed. I think it's a little silly, because now you're going into a very touchy subject as to what counts you as being deleted from the platform. But overall, whether you're on the right or left, I think something we do need to agree on is that we should be willing to have conversations with one another. In fact, some of the most popular political people on the internet are usually people that debate. You could say Destiny, Xander Hall, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder. A lot of them will debate their specific political sides. And I think you should do that. But right now, what you're seeing is a lot of teenagers who have never had a job, a lot of teenagers who have never been out in the world, who have never actually spoken to the other side, are being sheltered because their first experience of the world is now social media. They're seeing that social media has a specific way to go. And let's not deny it, social media is very left leaning, especially like on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, you could even say. Although I would say YouTube is more middle-ish, if I've noticed. I honestly don't know, but you are seeing more left-leaning stuff. You know, of course, pro LGBTQ plus, pro BLM, all that stuff. And I understand you're trying to make the world a better place, but part of making the world a better place is to have these conversations. The more you silence someone, the more louder they're gonna be. And I think one thing that I hate about social media is you're seeing a lot of these spoiled little brats on the internet, and they're usually pretty young, around 16, 17, 18, even 20, a little older, whatever. And usually, because they don't have so much life experience, they almost dehumanize anyone who dares to have a different opinion. Now, on my own experience, I live in a very conservative place. I live with a bunch of conservatives around me all the time, so I've been able to have many conversations. Even my own bosses, the job I work at, my bosses are very Trump supporting, right leaning people. And I'll tell you this right now, a lot of them that I've met are not these white supremacist neo-Nazi figures. They're not. A lot of them just support Trump because of specific things. And look, there's, for example, something I'm very vocal about is the white replacement theory. I fucking hate that theory. I hate it because it is essentially saying that Hispanics should go back to their countries. As a Hispanic person myself, I do not agree with that theory. But I'm not going to take away somebody's right to speak that, because at the end of the day, it's out there already. And I think you should be willing to conversate and debate that theory, learn about why that person believes that, and then debate them, try to counter everything, maybe educate yourself along the process, and then you can improve things. But when you tell somebody that they should stop associating with their family, that is dehumanizing somebody. Because at the end of the day, your family is your most important thing in life. Or at least for most people that grow up with families. You know, usually your family is the first thing you ever meet. You know, your parents. Usually almost every baby's first word is mama or papa or whatever. Usually that's the case. Or your brothers and sisters. Who do you grow up? When you're a kid, when you're a teenager, and then when you're eventually an adult, who are the ones you grew up with? Your parents, your brothers, your sisters. So it is kind of dehumanizing when you tell somebody that they can't associate with their family just because of different political signs. And I know to some of y'all, when I say political signs, you probably think I'm belittling or I'm making it a smaller issue than what you think it is. But at the end of the day, I guarantee you their family probably isn't at like KKK rallies or anything like that. And if they are, that is wrong. But at the end of the day, you're not sitting to Sydney. These are the people that were there from the beginning. These are the people that cared for her ever since she was a little baby. And to ask her to never speak to her family again, is pathetic. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, why didn't she just publicly say, oh, I don't agree with my family's political views or anything like that? At the end of the day, I don't know what Sydney's political, I don't know if she's left, right. I don't care. I'm not somebody who keeps up with actors or actresses. My assumption is maybe she's left leaning. I don't know, right leaning. Either way, if you disagree with a family member, you shouldn't make that public. At the end of the day, when you have some, I mean, I guarantee you, each and every one of you have family members you disagree with. But the difference is you're not famous, so to you, it's not as big of an issue publicly. I mean, I have people in my family I disagree with on a lot of topics. I I've said this a lot about the Latino community. I think a lot of Latinos are very homophobic. I think there's a lot of sexism. I think there's a lot of backwards agendas in the Latino culture, and I call it out a lot. I'm very vocal about it. I think there's a very backwards culture in that, but it's not like I'm never going to speak to my family, even though they are perpetuating that agenda. Saying that women should only be in the kitchen, that gay people shouldn't exist. Those are agendas they believe in. I don't believe in those agendas. I call it out. But guess what? They're my family. They were there when I was a little kid. My earliest memories are usually when my family's there. So I'm not going to disassociate with my family just because somebody on the internet told me to. And at the end of the day, this isn't Sydney's political thoughts. You know, this isn't her agenda. This isn't anything she's putting out there. That is just her family. And at the end of the day, you don't choose what your family does. Let's say some of y'all probably have a brother who probably wants to do a certain career path. You don't choose that career path for that person. They just choose it on their own. As adults, you make your own choices. You're more than welcome to debate them. You're more than welcome to contradict them. But what you can't do is just disassociate with them just because of it. Unless they believe something truly harsh, like murdering, I don't know, murdering puppies, then maybe, I guess that. But that's more of an extreme issue. If you truly cared about the world, you'd be willing to have these conversations. Because some of the best conversations are the harshest conversations because you do tend to learn a lot. And it helps you in the future when you do debate somebody. But if you truly want somebody to be on your side, then that's the case. We have the First Amendment in this country for a reason. I know there's a lot of people in this country who are very spoiled and entitled and believe that America's the worst country. I can guarantee you, if you go to Mexico for like 2 days, I can guarantee you'd be begging to come back to America. And I'm not saying go to Acapulco or El DF, the nice, beautiful places. No, I'm saying go to an actual Mexican town where there's a lot of poverty, where there's a lot of heat, where people are struggling to pay their bills or anything like that. And then not only that, but looming with the fear of the cartel being around there. That is the average life in these Latino countries. Whether you go to Central America, South America. A lot of you guys aren't seeing the bigger picture. You think America's this horrible place. Sure, there are flaws in America, but at least the one thing you have here is that freedom of speech. You go to Cuba and give your opinion. Guess what? You're going to jail the next day. You're in America. You give your freedom of speech. The most that you're going to get is some backlash on Twitter. So let's honor that freedom of speech, because once it's taken away, it's going to suck. So maybe instead of trying to take away that freedom of speech, maybe actually try conversate with that person. Try to get to the point as to why they believe that. And also, don't just drag along the people who just happen to be families with them. I'm so tired of this narrative that just because someone's family with someone, that means that they automatically believe everything they believe. But anyways, that's why I'm a little pissed at Sydney being canceled. All right, now what's the... Oh, and again, here's the image of... Look, this is literally Sydney Sweetie's brother. Her family is definitely Trump supporters and racist as fuck. I mean, I'll say this right now. I don't think being a Trump supporter makes you racist. I'll even straight up say that. Do I like Trump? No, I don't like Trump. I think a lot of the things he said about the Latino community is disgusting. I think it's horrible, and I think he's a pathetic piece of shit. But it's not like Biden's perfect, man. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't like Trump. I fucking hate Trump. But I don't know. I don't even want to talk about that specific. I'm more going to talk about the Euphoria cast. So just ignore what I just said. But anyways, let's remove that. All right. So what's the next person? Okay, Barbie Ferreira. So I want to wait for the Hunter Schafer stuff until the very end of the video, because that is the more, I would say that's the conversation that's probably most difficult to have. But Barbie Ferreira used to use the N-word on Tumblr. So when I did research for this video, I wasn't able to find the pictures. So if any of you guys have pictures of her saying the N-word, You can send it to me on my Instagram or Twitter at Isaac the Film Geek on the social medias, or you can send it to me on my email, isaacthefilmgeek2020@gmail.com. All the links are in the description down below, or you can send me a link in the comment sections, wherever. You're more than welcome. I could not find it. I just couldn't. I'm not saying they don't exist. Pretty sure they do because people were able to find it, but let me say this. The N-word as a whole is a term I don't think anyone who's not black should say. And I know some. Last time I said this, for some reason I had a bunch of idiots say, "Censoring, you're censoring my freedom of speech." No, I'm not. I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying you shouldn't. There's a difference between that. It's not like if you say the word, I'm gonna go to your house with a gun and say, "Hey, you're under arrest from the N-word police." No, of course not. But my morality believes you shouldn't say that word. I'm not going to stop you from saying it. I'm not going to prevent you from saying it. I have no authority to do that. But I'm just saying my own personal opinion is I don't think that word should be used. It's a derogatory term that has dehumanized black people for centuries. During the slave era, during the civil rights era, every era and every moment, the N-word has been used to dehumanize black people. Now, I honestly can't say what the origin of using it as a friendly term. Like, a lot of black people amongst each other will use the word as, saying friend, homie, whatever. I think everyone understands that. And I don't know where the origin came from, but it did get popularized by a lot of hip hop music, a lot of rap music. You go listen to your classic, I don't know, Ice Cube music, Dr. Dre, Tupac, Biggie Smalls, and they'll often use that word. So in pop culture, it's kind of been popularized to, instead of use the word homie or friend, use the N-word. And a lot of white kids, and not just white kids, I would say Hispanic kids, a lot of Asian kids, they'll grow up listening to this music, watching their black friends around them say the word, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I want to say the word because it's this cool word, it's a cool slang." Now, to a lot of black people, you don't see it that way. You're more seeing it as taking back the word, changing the meaning from its previous term. But at the same time, you still feel uncomfortable when somebody from another race uses a term. But to a lot of people who aren't black, they see that term and think, I want to be cool. I want to, I love listening to my favorite rappers use that word. So can I say, usually is that, or sometimes it's usually, I don't know, you're bumping to a song on the radio, on your Spotify, whatever, and then you just sing along with it and you just happen to say that word. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that's usually why a lot of people want to say the N-word. Me personally, I don't use the word. I think, again, like I said, it's a very derogatory term that I don't think anyone should say. Again, let me emphasize, I'm saying you shouldn't say. I'm not saying you can't say. I cannot personally come to your home, grab your mouth, and rip it out of you. I can't do that, obviously. No, I can't. Barbie, the fat girl on the left that you see right here, some old Tumblr post came out using the term. Now, I made a video on, I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but Spider-Man Lotus. It was this fan film, but the actor for Peter Parker, Spider-Man, he had some old DMs resurface where he had said the N-word. And so I'm going to say a lot of the things that I said in that video. Culturally, there used to be a time period on the internet where everyone wanted to be as edgy as possible. Now, I think being edgy is good as long as you're not crossing the line of too edgy. Not only that, but if you're going to be edgy, at least be funny, And, using the N-word isn't funny. Let's not deny that. But, although comedy is subjective. But I still don't think it's funny. But, here's the thing. Back in 2016, back in 2017, and even later on, 2018, 2019, I think you could say kind of stopped around 2020. But naturally, it was popular to be very edgy. An example of this is one of the most popular YouTubers at the time, and still is popular, iDubbbz, used to use the hard R N-word, and nobody cared. Keemstar would literally say the hard R N-word. H3 would say the hard R N-word. Even some popular movies, Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino, in his cameo, he says the hard R N-word. It was kind of, well, yes, it was seen as a bad word at the time, socially on online culture, it wasn't all that bad. It wasn't. And so Barbie, I searched up her age. She's 25. So from what it seems like, she was in her early 20s. And when you're young, you tend to say a lot of stupid things. A lot of stupid things. I look back at what I did 2-ish, 3 years ago, and I always come out with regret. I've said this before. I have a very edgy past. If I ever get canceled, I wouldn't be surprised. I used to use the F slur pretty normally. Now, I didn't start a YouTube channel till like 2-3 years, 2-ish years ago, 2 years ago. And I didn't really say a lot of edgy stuff on my channel, so it's not like you could find it here. But if you could do research on my Instagram history and all that, you probably would be able to find something. But I used to use the F slur pretty commonly, pretty normally. Um, and that was wrong of me, but I did. And I used to make incredibly edgy jokes. I made a lot of 9/11 jokes. I made a lot of Holocaust jokes. I made a lot of jokes about genocides and past history. Yes, I know, a lot of historical jokes. But I used to make a lot of jokes on that. And I would make fun of people. Like, I would make racial stereotypes. I would make a lot of sexist jokes, homophobic jokes. I made a lot of those transphobic jokes. I made a lot of these jokes. And so I kind of understand already to have an edgy past. But I think, like, I'll go back to what I said. Cancel culture usually is just a bunch of teenagers who have too much time on their hands and don't actually understand about social issues. It's my problem. There's a lot of virtue signaling people who pretend to care about real issues, but don't actually want to do the work to prevent these real societal issues. And and one thing a lot of these young people don't understand is that you do eventually move on from your mistakes. You're going to say things you regret. I guarantee you, if you ask anyone over the age of 25, 30, 40, whatever age around that, I guarantee you, if you ask them, do you regret anything? They'll tell you they regret something. Everyone regrets something. Whether it's maybe they never got married, never had kids, or maybe they used to say some bad things. Maybe they used to really like alcohol. Maybe they'd never lost weight when they were younger and now they're struggling for it, or health issues, all that. Maybe preventing themselves from smoking. Every single one of them will tell you they have something in the past that they regret, and if they could, they would change it. From what it seems like, Barbie has not said the N-word in recent years. I'm not saying it's right that she said the word. I'm just saying she's young, and when you're young, you're stupid. I'll say this right now. I'm young. I'm only 20 years old, and I'm still stupid. But guess what? I strive to improve. I strive to change. That's why I stopped saying the F slur, because I wanted to improve my vocabulary and I wanted to improve my morals. Um, but there's a lot of young people who don't actually understand, the past. They don't understand that everyone makes a mistake, that they make regrets. And that was Barbie's mistake. She said the N-word. I'm not saying it's right that she said the word. I'm just saying that's her in the past. And I know, yes, whether it's in the past or now, the word still is a derogatory term that has dehumanized black people for centuries. It still is. And that's not going to change. But at the end of the day, as a human being, all you can do is strive to improve. And it's not like she hit somebody. It's not like she abused anyone. It's not like she had some physical altercation that actually put somebody in a coma. At the end of the day, she said a word. It's wrong. Let's move on. There's no point in sticking to this fucking subject. And it's not only that, but it's not like she's going to be in season 3 of Euphoria. That's already been confirmed. Not because of this, but because of something that happened with her and Sam Levinson, which I honestly, can I say this? I honestly don't give a fuck about. But no, it's a little bit of a problem we have in cancel culture society, where everyone expects you to be perfect, expects you to have this perfect track record of never having said anything. I guarantee you, any person watching this video that was born in like the 80s or 90s, I guarantee you probably grew up with a lot of homophobia around you. I guarantee you, or transphobia and all that. So let's get that out of the fucking way, because this one was probably the most. Besides, like, these two cancellations were really, really silly. The Sweeney and the Barbie Ferreira cancellations were honestly the stupidest, and I can understand. The Euphoria fan base tends to be very young, very left-leaning people who, a lot of them are part of the LGBTQ+, who, I don't know, stuff like that. And I can understand it. A lot of y'all are sensitive. A lot of y'all don't understand how the world works, but you got to grow up at some point. There's actual real issues out there. There are people being murdered all the time, slaughtered, rape. There's genocides out there. Maybe we should strive on focusing on those issues. instead of, focusing on, oh my God, somebody's parents is a Trump supporter. It's like, for fuck's sake, Sydney Sweeney is a blonde Southern white girl. What did you expect her family to be like? She's a blonde Southern white girl. Usually, there's at least going to be one Trump supporter in those families, I don't know what the fuck to tell you, man. I honestly don't get it. A lot of these people genuinely don't understand the world. It's disappointing. And a lot of them are like, middle class. They're not really struggling. They have all the time, like, a lot of these younger people will have all the time in the world to be on their phones instead of looking for a job or anything, or trying to provide for the family. So a lot of them don't really have to suffer real problems. So to them, when they see this little thing, they see it as a problem. But really, it's not a problem. Just because your parents are a Trump supporter or you used to say the N-word back in the day, who fucking cares? It means jack shit nothing. It means nothing. It's fucking stupid. One of them is guilt by association, and the other is just, oh, she said a really horrible thing in the past, but who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? There are real people in Hollywood who are causing harm. Harvey Weinstein, R. Kelly. There's a lot of bad people in the business, and we want to focus on these stupid little fucking issues. It's my problem with a lot of people nowadays. A lot of people nowadays want to virtue signal. They want to pretend like they care about social issues, but in reality, they don't. They don't really give a fuck. They don't care if a black guy dies in the streets because of a cop. They don't care at the end of the day. What they care about is, oh, what gets me the most likes on Instagram or Twitter? Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Do something productive in the world. This doesn't seem productive. I don't know. But anyways. Now the third and final one is Hunter Schafer. I'm just kidding. It's actually Maddie, this Hispanic girl. The reason why she's being canceled is because people found out she's an immigrant and she has no green card. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. It's Hunter Schafer. So you can already see the red marks. You already know. So Hunter Schafer is this girl right here. And she is transgender. I think in the show they tell you that she's transgender too. I don't know, but in real life she's transgender. Now she liked the post. Now I could not find the actual post, so I had to find this video from Papa Gut. So it's an account called Piggy Taiwan. And they put out a post kind of criticizing non-binary people. So I'll read it first and then kind of go into it. So here's the post. Hunter Schafer, all she did was she liked the post and she put some exclamation marks. So let's read it first and then we'll get into it. Okay, so the post says, I hope all of the people entities and MBs who fought to have trans identities no longer consider a medical condition that requires dysphoria are happy because you've won. The red states are beginning to agree with you. HRT and gender-affirming surgery are no longer deemed affirming surgery are no longer deemed medically necessary for adults in Florida, and it's not going to stop there. That means more trans people will have to pay for their transactions out of the pocket, forcing more of us into sex work. Y'all just couldn't stand to let binary trans people be the choice of this community. You had to dismantle all of the guidelines around being trans to fit your narrative so you could feel valid, and then you demonize trans people who challenge your ideals and call them trans scum, trans medicalist. What you don't understand is that binary trans women and men don't have the luxury of playing around with what it means to be trans the same way you do. The challenge gender ideologies from the safety of a cis body that requires no medical treatment. We have to play the game and live by the guidelines that cis people have created. So to kind of sum it up, that post was essentially is basically hinting that trans people are a little frustrated with non-binary because non-binary didn't really become like a more known thing until recently. Even historically speaking, over a decade ago, even gay people, a lot of gay, bi, pan people felt the same way about trans people. A lot of them believed that trans people were affecting them from getting rights. And right now in the world, trans people have very little rights. There's some states that don't allow you to get the surgery. There's a lot of, not only that, but culturally and morally, a lot of people still don't believe you should get the surgery and that you have some mental issues. I am somebody who just believes in respecting somebody's identity. At the end of the day, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect you. but it does affect the person who did get the surgery. And I think you should be respectful amongst those, even if you disagree with the whole trans thing. At the end of the day, just respect somebody's identity. You're not. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. If somebody, and usually they grow up with gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria basically means the gender you were assigned at birth is not the one that you believe around. Like, for example, if you were born a girl, throughout the years, you're going to feel like you just weren't put in the right body. You feel like you're a woman, or not a woman. You feel like you're a boy put in a woman's body. And so your entire life, you feel like something's wrong with you, that you feel in pain. And not only that, but when you grow up a certain gender, you're taught certain things. A lot of guys are taught to be outdoors men, work hard outside, be leaders, be this, while women are usually taught to be lovers, to be, to be indoor workers, to be a little more sensitive. So gender dysphoria, that's kind of an easy way to sum it up. And when you're transgender, your goal is to eventually get to the body that you feel you require. Again, if you were born a girl and you feel you're a guy, you eventually want to get into a guy's body. That's usually what you want to do. That's the surgery. And even now, even in the more left-leaning political world or at least country, America, I'm talking America more, in this current climate, it is far more accepting to be trans than it was a couple of years ago. Even back in 2016, it wasn't that normal. And a lot of trans people are fighting to get the surgeries to be able to. And not only that, let's remember, getting surgery is expensive. It's not cheap. So that's another thing. Another thing is you also want to be able to use the restrooms you believe in. If you're somebody who believes you're a guy, you're probably not going to want to go into a girl's restroom. It's just the reality. There's a lot of issues to it. You want to identify as the gender that you believe you are. But right now you are seeing, I'm not saying this is something that's new. This is more something that's more popular now, is a thing called being non-binary. Now, usually when you're non-binary, it kind of basically means that you don't feel you're a gender. You feel like you don't know whether you're a guy or a girl. And so that's where the pronouns they/them come from. And I know a lot of people like to mock that. A lot of people like to make fun of it. But one problem that has caused for trans people is a lot of trans people feel like non-binary people are just trying to be trans without actually getting the surgery. And by the way, I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying this is right. If you don't feel like you're any male or female, that's completely fine. At the end of the day, you feel the way. You can't change somebody's feelings. You can change how they react to a feeling, but you can't change somebody's specific feelings. But part of it, there's two reasons why being non-binary has been a little more popularized now. One of them is, social media has, or really more social media, but you could also say a lot of the countries becoming more left-leaning, becoming more tolerant of trans, the LGBT, and so a lot of people feel more open-minded to identify themselves as non-binary. Another thing also is social media is very liberal now, and let's not deny this. I feel like nobody wants to say this, but I'll go ahead and say it. Being LGBT on the internet has kind of been popularized. It kind of feels cool. And one of those things is being non-binary. I'm not saying that is the thing, but that is something I think that's something we do need to discuss. If a lot of people want a virtue signal, they want to pretend like they care about social issues, but a lot of them don't actually want to have the conversations to challenge these social issues. And the only way you're going to change things is if you conversate about these things. But no. And a lot of trans people, and I understand people are going to be like, oh, they shouldn't feel this way. Well, guess what? They feel this way. Because for decades, they've been fighting to get their own rights, especially for stuff like surgery, and a lot of conservatives, a lot of right-leaning people, a lot of people, especially in the alt-right, are probably never, ever, ever, ever going to accept trans people, the LGBT as a whole, but specifically trans people. They're probably never. But one thing that has affected it even more for trans communities is because a lot of conservatives don't actually understand really the idea of this behind. They're now finding it stupid when people identify as they, them instead of he or her or she or. And you're seeing that more and more. And then when you're seeing people identify as trans, even though they haven't gone to surgery, a lot of trans people feel negatively affected because they're still struggling to get their rights. This is something that happened 10 years ago or a decade ago when gay people felt that trans people were affecting their rights to get married to the same sex. That's usually what's happened And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's usually how they feel. And you can't blame somebody like Hunter Schafer, who has probably struggled their entire life with gender dysphoria, somebody who has struggled their entire life feeling that they weren't in the right body, and you cannot blame them for feeling this way. I feel like a lot of y'all want to pretend like you care about these topics, but you don't. A trans person is trying to tell you about what they feel like as a trans person, but instead you want to silence them. I'm seeing a lot of people saying that, oh, Hunter Schafer doesn't actually care about non-binary people, doesn't care about this. I don't think that's the case at all. I think she does care. I just think that she cares more about the trans community, a community that's still struggling to feel, to be accepted in society, and not only that, but still struggling to even get the surgery. And I know nobody wants to say that, but that's just the case. But again, it's a lot of virtue signaling idiots online who pretend to care about these topics, but instead, when a trans person actually comes out with an actually frustrated with how the trans community is treated, none of y'all want to listen because it doesn't fit with your narrative. Not only that, but if you actually want to improve things for trans people, at least hear them out. It's fucking stupid. It's genuinely fucking oh crap, my microphone fell. But it's stupid. That is probably the more touchy one. I can understand as a non-binary person. I can understand if you feel frustrated by her liking the tweet. But at the end of the day, you still need to understand her frustration. Not only that, but she didn't make the post, so just shut the fuck up. But I don't know. All these cancellations were so stupid and so silly. But I think this is just proof that a lot of people online just truly don't have enough life experience. I don't know. But anyways, I know this was a very touchy video. I know it's a very sensitive video, but hey, you know what? You gotta have these conversations. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and y'all are more than welcome to comment in the comment section down below. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.